Millionaire fires Janitor for sleeping in the bathroom, but freezes when he sees what's beside her. He commanded billion-dollar deals without blinking. But one door opened, and the face of a woman asleep on cold tiles dragged him back to a truth he thought he'd buried forever. End of the workday at Whitmore & Co. The hallways were empty, and the dim lights cast elongated shadows over the polished marble. Logan Whitmore, 47-year-old CEO, walked with firm, echoing steps. The meeting with investors had been tense, billions at stake, and no one seemed to grasp his vision. "Incompetence," he muttered, loosening his silk tie as he pushed open the executive bathroom door. Silence shattered with his gasp of surprise. There, beside the sink, a woman in a gray uniform was sleeping deeply, her head resting against the wall, a mop fallen beside her. "What the hell?" Logan's voice echoed off the marble walls. Clara Jimenez startled awake, her eyes disoriented until she recognized the man standing before her. She stood up awkwardly, smoothing her wrinkled uniform. "Mr. Whitmore, I'm so sorry, Sleeping on the job? Is this what I'm paying for?" Logan's face flushed. "Do you know how much each minute in this company costs?" "Please, sir, I have 2 shifts and my grandson is—" "I don't care about your excuses." Logan cut her off with a sharp gesture. "You're fired. Right now." The security camera in the corner captured everything. Maya Garcia, from Human Resources, paused at the doorway, drawn by the voices. "Mr. Whitmore, perhaps we could—" "Prepare her termination papers, Maya." Logan didn't even look at her. "I don't want to see this woman in the building tomorrow." Clara, now silent, gathered her small plastic bag. Her hands trembled. As she bent down, a used inhaler and insulin vial fell from her pocket. Logan looked away, uneasy for a moment. Something about those medical items disturbed him, but he hardened his expression. "Sir, please." Clara's eyes shimmered with restrained tears. "Enough. The rules are clear." Clara finally nodded, dignified despite the humiliation. "As you say, Mr. Whitmore." Maya watched as the woman walked away down the hallway, her footsteps barely audible. When she looked back at Logan, she saw something that unsettled her. A flicker of doubt in the usually ruthless CEO's eyes. "Maya, why are you still here? You've got work to do." "Yes, sir." Maya hesitated. "But company policy requires a warning before—" "Are you questioning my decision?" Logan's voice dropped to a dangerous tone. "No, sir." As Maya left, Logan stared at himself in the mirror, adjusting his $500 tie. For a second, his reflection looked like that of a stranger. In the hallway, Clara Jimenez glanced at the cracked screen of her phone and the photo of her grandson. How would she explain that there would be no more money for his medication? What neither of them knew was that this encounter in the marble bathroom would trigger a storm that would change their lives forever. Snow fell over New York like dirty cotton as Clara walked toward the subway station. The biting wind pierced through her worn-out coat. Her eyes burned, not just from the cold. "Mama Lynn, is that you?" Mateo's small voice called out as she opened the door to her tiny apartment in Queens. "Yes, my love." Clara forced a smile as the 8-year-old ran to hug her. She immediately noticed his labored breathing. "Did you use your inhaler?" Mateo nodded, but Clara knew the signs. She gently stroked his black hair as she led him to the table where his homework waited. The apartment was small but tidy, decorated with photos and mementos. Clara turned on the electric iron while checking Mateo's schoolwork. Her hands bore the calluses of years cleaning other people's offices. "Everything okay at work?" asked the elderly neighbor who looked after Mateo. Clara took a deep breath. "I need a coffee, Doña Mercedes." When Mateo finally fell asleep, Clara pulled a worn box from the closet. Inside were sepia-toned photos, 2 smiling girls in the Dominican Republic, and a more recent one of a woman in a teacher's coat surrounded by children. "Oh, Abby," Clara whispered, touching her sister's smiling face. "What am I going to do now?" The memory was vivid. 10 years ago, the urgent call from New York. Her sister Abby, a teacher in Brooklyn, had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Clara didn't hesitate to leave Santo Domingo to care for her. "Promise me you'll take care of Mateo," Abby had whispered in the hospital. "He's a special boy." Among the photos, Clara kept a small school pencil case filled with notes from Abby's former students. Childlike thank you letters that her sister treasured more than anything else. She always talked about a boy named Logan, Clara recalled aloud. She said he was her miracle. She never imagined that same boy would be the man who humiliated her today. Clara never told anyone about the nights when exhaustion overcame her at work. 2 jobs, double shifts, expensive asthma medicine for Mateo. Sometimes, hidden in the top-floor bathroom, she'd sleep for 20 minutes just to keep going. She glanced at the calendar where she'd marked rent due dates, Mateo's next doctor's appointment, and pending medications. With her dismissal, everything was falling apart. Her phone buzzed with a message from Maya. "Clara, I need you to come tomorrow to pick up your documents. I'm so sorry." Clara put the phone away and looked at a bright star through the fogged window. She remembered what Abby used to say. "Stars are people watching over us from above." "I need your help now, little sister," she whispered. She didn't know that the next day, the small school case she treasured would change everything. Meanwhile, miles away in a glass penthouse overlooking Manhattan, Logan Whitmore drank whiskey alone, accompanied only by the echo of a child's voice he thought he had long forgotten. The next morning was freezing. Clara adjusted Mateo's scarf before leaving him with Doña Mercedes. "I'll be back soon, my love. I'm just going to pick up some papers. Are you not working at the shiny building anymore?" The boy's eyes held a depth far beyond his years. Clara kissed his forehead. "I'm going to find something better." The lobby of Whitmore & Co. felt more intimidating than ever. Clara clutched her worn-out purse, where she always kept the school pencil case. She carried it like a lucky charm on difficult days. Maya greeted her with an awkward smile. "Your documents are ready." "I'm so sorry, Clara." "Life goes on," she replied with dignity. As she signed the papers, the elevator doors opened. Logan Whitmore stepped out, impeccable in his dark suit. Their eyes met for a brief moment before he looked away, pretending to check his phone. Clara finished signing and stood up, gathering her things in a hurry. Just then, the small pencil case slipped from her bag and fell to the floor, bursting open. Papers and childlike notes scattered like autumn leaves. Logan stopped in his tracks. Among the papers, one with a child's handwriting caught his eye. "To my teacher Abby. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did. Logan W." The color drained from his face. Slowly, he bent down, picking up the yellowed paper with hands that suddenly seemed to tremble. "Where did you get this?" His normally commanding voice sounded fragile. Clara looked him straight in the eye. "It belonged to my sister, Abby Jimenez." "Abby?" Logan spoke the name like it belonged to a forgotten language. "Your sister was Miss Abby? From public school, 118 in Brooklyn?" "Yes." Clara began picking up the scattered notes. "She died 5 years ago. Cancer." The silence that followed was so heavy that Maya held her breath, an involuntary witness to something she couldn't understand. Logan struggled for words. "She talked about me?" "Almost every day." Clara carefully returned the notes to the pencil case. "She called you her miracle." A flashback tore through Logan's mind, a young teacher with dark hair pulled back, kneeling beside a thin, frightened boy, reading to him softly while the other kids played. "You've got something special in here, Logan. One day the world will see it." "I didn't." Logan rubbed his face, suddenly exposed. "I didn't know she'd passed." "A lot happens when you don't look back, Mr. Whitmore." Clara closed her bag. "Excuse me." She began walking down the corridor, small and dignified. Logan watched her, frozen between two worlds, the present he had built and a past he thought was buried. "Wait!" The word escaped his mouth before he could stop it. Clara stopped, but didn't turn around. Did she? Logan hesitated. Did she suffer? Clara turned slowly. Her eyes held a mix of pain and something else. Compassion. She kept asking about you until the end. She wanted to know if you'd found your way. Logan felt the ground vanish beneath his feet. Maya, still standing nearby, witnessed something extraordinary. The unshakable CEO's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Clara continued toward the exit, leaving behind a man who, for the first time in decades, questioned whether he had truly found his path. In his hand, he still held the child's note, a fragile bridge between the boy he had been and the man he had become. Logan's Manhattan penthouse offered a panoramic view of the city, but that night, he saw only shadows. Sitting in darkness with an untouched whiskey in hand, he pulled from his pocket the child's note he had kept, despite himself. The shaky handwriting of an 8-year-old, his past literally resting in the palm of his hand. With mechanical movements, Logan opened a metal box from his safe. Inside were the only remnants of his childhood, an old school badge, a photo from his adoption ceremony, and a newspaper clipping about the closure of the orphanage where he had spent his early years. Useless sentimentality, he muttered, trying to regain his usual cold composure. His phone buzzed. A message from Maya. Mr. Whitmore, I've processed Clara Jimenez's termination as requested. Any other instructions? Logan stared at the screen for a long time before replying. No. Proceed with standard protocols. He tossed the phone onto the couch and poured himself another whiskey he wouldn't drink. She was just another teacher, he said aloud. I don't owe anyone anything. But the memories seeped through like water through his fingers. Abby reading to him after class, defending him from bullies, bringing him a sandwich when she noticed he didn't have lunch. She was the one who contacted social services when she saw his bruises, who insisted until the right adoptive family was found. That was over 30 years ago, he said while shoving the memories back into the box. Life moves on. The next morning, Logan signed Clara's official termination without even reading it. Maya observed him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Is there a problem, Garcia? No, sir. Maya hesitated. It's just that Mrs. Jimenez has been with the company for 12 years without a single complaint. 12 years cleaning bathrooms. Logan looked at her sharply. If she couldn't move up in 12 years, that's not my problem. That afternoon, trying to silence a growing voice inside, Logan did something impulsive. He sent a sizable donation to his former public school in Brooklyn. The response came by email that same evening. Dear Mr. Whitmore, thank you for your generous donation. It is the first time we've heard from you in 30 years, despite our multiple invitations to alumni events. The building you remember was demolished 3 years ago due to lack of funding. Sincerely, Dr. Martinez, Principal. Logan slammed the laptop shut harder than necessary and buried himself in work until dawn, swatting away memories like flies. That night, sleep betrayed him. He saw himself as a skinny child, sitting in the corner of a classroom while Miss Abby read softly. Sometimes the most important people in our lives are invisible to everyone else. He woke up drenched in sweat, the sheets twisted around his legs. For the first time in years, the iron grip he held over his life felt like it was cracking. His phone rang. It was 3:17 a.m. Who the hell? He answered irritably. Mr. Whitmore. His chauffeur's voice sounded nervous. Sorry to disturb you, sir. There's a situation downstairs. A woman insists on seeing you, says it's important. What woman? She says her name is Clara Jimenez. Logan froze, the phone cold against his ear. Sir, what should I do with her? The CEO of Whitmore & Co., a man used to making billion-dollar decisions in seconds, suddenly found himself paralyzed by a simple question. Tell her to leave, Logan finally ordered, and hire more security for the building. He returned to bed but couldn't sleep. By 7 a.m., He was already in his office, reviewing financial reports with cold efficiency. Maya entered with his usual coffee. "Mrs. Jimenez refused the severance," she reported. "She left this for you." She placed a simple envelope on the desk. Logan deliberately ignored it. "I don't care. Deposit the money into her account and close the case." "As you wish." Maya paused at the door. She also declined the extended health insurance. Logan looked up. "Why would she do that?" "She said something about pride." Maya shrugged. "She mentioned her grandson needs special medication." After Maya left, Logan eyed the envelope warily, as if it contained something dangerous. He finally opened it. Inside was an old photo of Abby with a group of children. Logan recognized his own childhood face, marked with a red circle. "Enough," he muttered, stuffing the photo into a drawer. "I have a company to run." That afternoon, stuck in a traffic jam in Manhattan, Logan was checking emails on his phone when shouting on the sidewalk caught his attention. A woman was holding a child struggling to breathe, crying out for help as passers-by ignored her. To his horror, he recognized Clara Jimenez. Without thinking, Logan ordered the car to stop and rushed out. "Clara!" She looked at him with eyes wide with fear. The boy in her arms had blue lips. "His inhaler isn't working," she sobbed. "He needs to get to the hospital." Logan didn't hesitate. "My car now." The chauffeur drove at full speed to the nearest community hospital. In the back seat, Clara whispered into the boy's ear as his breathing worsened. "Hold on, my love. We're almost there." Logan watched the scene with an unfamiliar tightness in his chest. "What's his name?" "Mateo," Clara replied without looking away from the child. "He's Abby's son." The hospital was a worn-down building, nothing like the private clinics Logan frequented. Staff rushed toward them as they entered with the child. "Severe asthma attack," a nurse shouted as they wheeled Mateo into the emergency room. Clara tried to follow, but a receptionist stopped her. "We need your insurance card, ma'am." Clara turned pale. "It was canceled yesterday, but I can pay cash." The woman shook her head. "Treatment costs thousands of dollars." "I'll cover it," Logan interjected, handing over his credit card. "Treat the boy." Clara looked at him with a mix of surprise and distrust. "We don't need your charity." "It's not charity," Logan replied curtly. "It's the right thing to do." While they waited, Logan wandered the hospital hallway. Children's drawings decorated the chipped walls. Beside the playroom, a faded plaque caught his eye. Abigail Jimenez Educational Room. An older nurse noticed his interest. "Did you know Miss Abby?" "A long time ago." The woman smiled wistfully. "An angel. She donated half her salary to keep this place running. Even when she got sick, she kept coming in to read stories, until she couldn't get out of bed anymore." Logan felt something crack inside him. "I didn't know. A lot of important people pass through our lives without us really seeing them," the nurse said before walking away. Logan stood still, staring at the plaque bearing the name of the woman who had saved him from a childhood of abuse, the woman whose sister he had humiliated and fired without a second thought. When the doctor came out to say Mateo was stable, Logan was no longer there. He had left the hospital and was wandering aimlessly through the streets of New York, his city, yet suddenly a stranger, questioning for the first time whether he truly deserved everything he had. The old public school 118 in Brooklyn stood like a skeleton of what it once was, its windows boarded up and graffiti covering the walls. A sign read, "Coming soon, Riverside Luxury Towers." Logan stood in front of the abandoned building, feeling the weight of the years. Here, in these now empty classrooms, Abby Jimenez had taught him more than math and science. She had made him feel he mattered. "Can I help you?" An older man in a security uniform approached. "I was just remembering. I studied here a long time ago." The man, Alberto according to his name tag, nodded. "Closed 3 years ago. A real shame." Logan pointed toward a second-floor window. Room 2B. Do you know if anything from there was kept? Miss Jimenez's classroom? Alberto smiled. Were you one of hers? Logan nodded, surprised. You knew her? The whole neighborhood knew her. Alberto opened the gate. Come, I'll show you something. He led him to a small shed in the backyard. Inside, dusty boxes held school materials salvaged before demolition. This was Miss Jimenez's. Alberto pointed to a box labeled Room 2B. No one ever came to claim it. With trembling hands, Logan opened the box. Worn books, yellowed papers, an old cassette player. At the bottom, a photo album. He opened it to find children's faces, including his own. She was an extraordinary woman, Alberto said. Turned down a position at a private school to stay here. Said her kids needed her. How do you know that? My wife worked in administration. She saw the offer letter Miss Jimenez refused. Alberto paused. It was the same day you got adopted. Logan looked up sharply. My adoption? Alberto nodded. She moved heaven and earth for you, Mr. Whitmore. We all knew. A memory resurfaced. Abby walking him to meet the couple who would become his adoptive parents. They're good people, Logan. They'll give you the chances you deserve. That night, after ordering a thorough investigation, Logan received emails confirming the unimaginable. Abby had turned down a job with triple the salary at a private academy the same day his adoption was finalized. It had been her who contacted the Whitmore family specifically. Head-spinning, Logan drove to Queens, to the address he had obtained from HR files. The modest apartment building sharply contrasted with his Manhattan penthouse. He rang the buzzer. Silence. He rang again. Finally, Clara's voice came through the intercom. Who is it? Logan Whitmore. A long silence. We have nothing to talk about. Please, Clara, I need to understand. You understood enough when you fired me. Logan pressed his forehead to the door. She spoke to you about me. Abby. I want to know what she said. The door opened slightly, revealing Clara with a cautious expression. Why now? It's been 5 years since she died. Because I didn't know who she was until yesterday. The sincerity in his voice seemed to surprise her. Clara looked at the powerful businessman, now vulnerable, standing on her threshold. After a long pause, she opened the door wider. 15 minutes. Mateo's sleeping. The small apartment was clean, but overflowing with need. Logan noticed the medicines on the table, the worn school books, the frayed couch clearly used as a bed. On a shelf, photos of Abby at various stages. Young teacher with her small son in a hospital bed beside Clara. Logan stopped in front of the last picture, where Abby, already worn by illness, held a book. She kept teaching until the end, Clara murmured from the kitchen as she made coffee. She said it was her purpose. She handed him a chipped mug. Logan took it as if it were fine crystal. What did she tell you about me? Clara looked at him directly. That you were her reminder that every child is worth fighting for. That when everyone else had given up on you, she saw your light. She paused. That you'd become someone who would change lives the way she changed yours. Logan closed his eyes, crushed by the weight of all he never knew, of all he never thanked. In the bedroom, Mateo coughed in his sleep. The sound seemed to awaken something in Logan. How can I help? He asked simply. Clara picked up the empty cup. You can't anymore, Mr. Whitmore. Now please leave. When the door closed behind him, Logan understood that the true judgment wasn't in Clara's eyes, but in the memory of a teacher who had believed in him when no one else did. The next morning, Logan canceled all his meetings. For the first time in 15 years, Whitmore & Co. were operated without his presence. His assistant, puzzled, received a brief explanation. Urgent personal matter. In his penthouse, Logan spread across the dining table all the documents he had gathered. Adoption records, school evaluations, old photographs. The puzzle of a life he had never really known. His phone rang. The director of his old school. Mr. Whitmore, we received your request. We do have a box with personal belongings of Abigail Jimenez that was never claimed. You can pick it up whenever you'd like. 2 hours later, Logan opened a dusty box in his living room. Among the papers and books, he found a yellow envelope with his name handwritten on it. Inside were childhood drawings he had made, superheroes with capes, all titled, Miss Abby, the Brave Teacher. On the back of one, in shaky child handwriting, "One day I'll be rich and buy you a school just for you." Logan dropped the drawing as if it were burning. Tears he hadn't shed in decades now streamed freely down his face. He grabbed his phone and dialed Maya. "I need you to prepare my resignation as CEO." "Excuse me?" Maya's voice reflected disbelief. "You heard me right." Logan took a deep breath. "And I want to set up a foundation, anonymous, to fund public schools and community hospitals." Maya was silent for a few seconds. "Mr. Whitmore, are you okay?" "For the first time in 30 years, Maya, I think I am." The news of his resignation exploded like a bomb on Wall Street. Speculation ran wild: health issues, looming scandals, secret corporate strategies. No one guessed the truth. Clara saw the news on her small television while ironing uniforms. Logan's face appeared on every channel while commentators debated the reasons behind his sudden decision. "That's the man from the hospital," Mateo said, recognizing him. Clara nodded silently, though something in her expression shifted. That same week, the community hospital where Mateo had been treated received an anonymous donation of $5 million. Clara heard the news from the nurse who had once known Abby. "It's a miracle," the woman said over the phone. "They're going to renovate the entire pediatric wing. They're even expanding the Abigail Jimenez educational room." Clara hung up with a strange feeling. That night, watching Mateo sleep peacefully, she knew exactly who was behind the donation. Meanwhile, at the old school building set for demolition, Maya found Logan sitting on the front steps, staring at a worn piece of paper. "Everyone is looking for you," she said gently. "This is where it all began." Logan looked up, his eyes red. "She was the one who cleaned me from the inside, and I never knew how to thank her." Maya sat beside him. "What do you plan to do now?" Logan gazed at the abandoned building, a silent witness to transformed lives. "Remember who I was, and maybe become who I was meant to be." That same night, while Clara prepared dinner, she received a notification. The demolition of Public School 118 had been cancelled. An anonymous foundation had purchased the property for full renovation. On the local news, they showed workers removing the Luxury Towers sign as neighbors celebrated the salvation of their historic school. Clara knew then that Abby somehow was still changing lives. 2 years passed, like water slipping through fingers. Life moved on, transforming people and places. Clara no longer cleaned other people's offices. Now she was a classroom monitor at a public school in the Bronx, helping kids like her Mateo, who was now in 5th grade. The once fragile asthmatic boy had grown into a bright student who dreamed of becoming a doctor one day. His asthma, now controlled with medication they could finally afford, rarely interrupted his activities. That afternoon, he was to participate in the science fair with a project about the respiratory system. "Do you think I'll win, Mama Lynn?" he asked as Clara adjusted his tie. "Win or not, I'm already proud of you." The new Public School 118, completely renovated, overflowed with life and technology. The classroom once occupied by Abby now bore her name, with a small commemorative plaque honoring her dedication to generations of students. 15 kilometers away, in a modest Brooklyn apartment, Logan Whitmore brewed coffee in a simple kitchen. His life of luxury and excess was long gone, replaced by a quiet existence dedicated to social projects. Each month, without fanfare, he visited the school to teach basic finance workshops to underprivileged students. No one there, except the principal, knew his true identity or wealth. "Mr. Logan," the kids called him, unaware that the man in the plain shirt and calm smile had once led a corporate empire. That afternoon, as he organized materials for his monthly workshop, Logan received a message from the principal. Today is our annual science fair. Lots of impressive projects. You should stop by. The school was buzzing with activity when he arrived. Proud parents, enthusiastic teachers, and nervous students presented their experiments. Logan walked the halls quietly, pausing at each project. In a corner of the gymnasium, a panel about asthma and the respiratory system caught his eye. The student passionately explained how the bronchial tubes constrict during an asthma attack. And that's why it's so important for people with asthma to have access to proper medication, the boy concluded. Logan froze as he recognized the face. It was Mateo, Clara's grandson, Abby's son. As he stepped away to avoid being recognized, a familiar figure appeared at the gym entrance. Clara, wearing a simple floral dress, watched her grandson with pride. Their eyes met for the first time in 2 years. Time seemed to stop in that noisy gymnasium. Neither spoke. They exchanged only a slight nod, a silent acknowledgement of everything they'd been through. Logan continued walking, shaken and moved at once. He completed his workshop almost on autopilot, his mind returning again and again to that fleeting encounter. That night, while Mateo slept, Clara found a new backpack at her apartment door. Inside were high-quality school supplies and children's books on medicine. At the bottom, an envelope with a handwritten letter, imitating a child's handwriting, included a drawing of a superhero with a blue cape and the words, "Thank you, Abby." Clara gently touched the paper, recognizing the gift's origin. No signature was needed. She knew exactly who had left it. Miles away, Logan looked out over the city from his window, holding a cup of tea. He no longer felt the need to control everything, to possess more, to be recognized. He had found something far more valuable: peace. His phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. "Mateo won first prize. Thank you for the books." Logan smiled in the dark. He didn't reply. Some conversations didn't need words. Greenwood Cemetery glowed with autumn colors that Sunday morning. Clara walked between gravestones with a small bouquet of sunflowers, Abby's favorite flowers. The grave was simple. Abigail Jimenez, 1970-2018, teacher, mother, guiding light. Clara knelt down to brush away fallen leaves and place the flowers. "Hi, little sister," she whispered. "Mateo is getting bigger every day. He looks so much like you." As she spoke, something unusual caught her eye. Fresh flowers already lay on the headstone. White roses, the same kind Abby used to place on her desk every Monday. Beside them, a folded note with just 3 words written, "I always remember." The autumn wind stirred nearby leaves, revealing a figure watching from a distance, partially hidden behind an old oak tree. Clara didn't need to turn completely. "I know it's you," she said aloud, without looking back. Silence. Then soft footsteps over dry leaves. Logan approached slowly, stopping at her side, gazing solemnly at the headstone. They didn't exchange greetings. There was no need. "I come every month," Logan finally confessed. "I never imagined I'd find you here today." "It's her birthday," Clara replied. Logan closed his eyes briefly. Another detail he had forgotten, or perhaps never knew. Without a word, he knelt beside the grave. He offered no spoken apologies, no justifications. He simply knelt, in a gesture of respect and recognition. Clara looked at this man, so different from the arrogant executive who once humiliated her. His expensive suit had been replaced by simple clothes. The hardness in his eyes had given way to a reflective calm. In a gesture that surprised them both, Clara extended her hand and took Logan's. Their fingers intertwined without the need for words. "Mama Lynn!" Mateo's voice rang out from a nearby path. The boy ran toward them with a brightly colored maple leaf. He stopped upon seeing the stranger kneeling beside his grandmother. "You're the man from the medicine books," he said, with the frankness only children possess. Logan smiled faintly. "Yes, that's me." "Did you know my mom?" Mateo pointed to the headstone. A lump in Logan's throat kept him from responding immediately. "Yes," he finally managed. "She was my teacher when I was your age." Mateo nodded seriously. "Then you're one of the kids from her stories." Logan looked at Clara, puzzled. "I tell him stories about Abby's students," she explained, "about how some of them overcame great hardships and achieved amazing things." Mateo walked up to the headstone and placed his colorful leaf next to the flowers. "I brought this because in the fall, we always made leaf collages." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken emotion. The wind gently rustled the flowers and leaves on the grave while 3 generations, bound by one extraordinary woman, stood in quiet contemplation. "Want some ice cream, Mateo?" Clara finally asked. The boy nodded excitedly. Clara looked at Logan. There was no need to say the invitation aloud. They walked together along the cemetery paths toward the exit, with Mateo running ahead, occasionally picking up more leaves. "He doesn't know that you're—" Clara began. "He doesn't need to," Logan interrupted gently. "One day he'll want to know your story." Logan watched the boy skip through the fallen leaves. "When he's ready." As they left the cemetery, Logan felt something shift inside him. For the first time since finding Clara asleep in that marble bathroom, he realized this wasn't a story about guilt or redemption. It was about recognition, about truly seeing the people who cross our path. While they shared ice cream on a park bench, watching Mateo play with other children, Logan understood that true forgiveness didn't need grand speeches. Sometimes, it simply happened, in the space between 2 people who finally saw each other for who they really were. "She would be proud," Clara said suddenly. "Of both of us." Logan nodded, a lump in his throat. For the first time in his adult life, he felt truly seen, not for his wealth or power, but for who he had become. The newly renovated public school 118 gleamed under the June sun. Parents, teachers, and students filled the auditorium for the end-of-year ceremony. Among the volunteers quietly helping set up chairs in the back row, Logan moved unnoticed. His transformation was complete. Few would recognize in this calm, helpful man the ruthless magnate he once was. He had become a steady but quiet presence at the school, offering workshops, assisting at events, simply being there. At the front, Clara supervised a group of children nervously rehearsing their speeches, including Mateo, who had been chosen to read a special essay. "Welcome to our end-of-year ceremony," the principal began. "This has been an extraordinary year thanks to our community and anonymous benefactors who believe in the future of our children." The program moved forward with music and awards. Finally came the highlight. And now, Mateo Jimenez will share his winning essay titled, "The Invisible People Who Save Lives." Mateo, now 10 years old, stepped confidently to the podium. His clear voice echoed through the silent auditorium. "There are people who clean our world without being seen, people who teach without expecting applause, people who heal without medals. My biological mother was a teacher who believed every child deserved a chance. My grandmother cleaned offices at night so I could have medicine. And there's a man who comes to our school to teach us about money, but he teaches us so much more." Logan, standing at the back of the auditorium, held back his emotions as Mateo spoke of everyday heroes. "Sometimes, we don't see those who help us the most until they're gone. But it's never too late to say thank you, to remember, to become the person they knew we could be." When he finished, the auditorium burst into applause. Instead of returning to his seat, Mateo walked straight to the back of the room, where Logan stood visibly moved. The boy handed him an envelope. "This is for you, Mr. Logan." With trembling hands, Logan opened it. Inside was his own childhood drawing of the superhero, Miss Abby, now recreated in vibrant colors with added detail. At the bottom, a note read, "For Mr. Logan, who became the hero Miss Abby dreamed of." Logan looked at Mateo, puzzled. "My grandma told me the whole story," the boy explained simply. "About the boy my mom saved, and who now saves us." Without warning, Mateo hugged him tightly. Other children, seeing the moment, joined the embrace. not fully understanding the story, but feeling its importance. Logan, the man who once built walls to keep the world out, found himself at the center of a circle of small arms, of giggles, of genuine human warmth. Clara watched from afar, silent tears trailing down her cheeks. Maya, attending the ceremony as a guest, stepped up beside her. "They don't know who he really is," Maya said. "They don't know he donated millions or saved this school." Clara smiled softly. "You're wrong. They don't know his title or his bank account, but they feel who he is. And that's all that matters." As the children returned to their seats, Logan remained still, holding the drawing like an invaluable treasure. For the first time in his adult life, he didn't need public recognition, applause, or outside validation. He closed his eyes briefly, remembering a young teacher who once told him, "Sometimes the most important people in our lives are invisible to others." Logan smiled. He was no longer the powerful CEO of Whitmore & Co., no longer the man who measured his worth in assets and acquisitions. He was simply Logan, the boy Abby had saved, the man who had finally found his way back. And for the first time in decades, he felt true peace. Some wounds are invisible, but they shape who we become. Logan thought success meant forgetting the past, but in facing his guilt, he rediscovered his humanity. Sometimes the person you dismiss today holds the key to the best version of yourself tomorrow. What about you? Have you ever ignored someone who might have changed your story? If this story moved you, subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Leave a like and tell us in the comments which country or city you're watching from. It helps us create stories that truly resonate. And don't forget to click on the next recommended video that's appearing now on your screen. Thank you so much for being with us.